Welcome back to the Ed Show. Home foreclosures are at their highest level in history. 8 million homes are facing foreclosure. But earlier today, the Senate rejected an amendment to the housing bill that would likely keep hundreds of thousands of Americans from losing their homes. President Obama has been a longtime supporter of this measure, and the House of Representatives passed similar legislation back in March. So what happened in the Senate today? To help explain that, here's one of the amendment supporters, Senator Jeff Merkley of Oregon. Senator, now this is a real good kick in the teeth for the taxpayers. We give them money to bail them out, and then, of course, they take their money and use lobbyists to fight legislation that would make it better for us. I got that right?
Yes, I'm enormously frustrated because this is such common sense win-win legislation to say, let's have a lifeline when consumers are unable to reach their mortgage company so that they can hold a conversation that will result in them staying in their home and payments on the loan that will continue, albeit at a smaller rate. But we want to avoid foreclosure. When banks have to foreclose, they lose 50% of the value at least. And so this was a win-win that was rejected today, and the frustration is enormous.
What are the taxpayers of this country supposed to think when the #2 Democrat says that the banks own the Senate? Senator, do they own you?
Well, I'll tell you, I voted for working men and women across this country, as 45 of my colleagues did today, because we understand that we have allowed tricky mortgages, deceptive mortgages, to turn the American dream into an American nightmare for millions of families. And now we have the chance to say, look, you can't even reach your mortgage company to be able to have a conversation about renegotiating the terms. The average American should have the same opportunity that a person has with their yacht loan or their vacation loan, vacation house loan, and we're not giving it to them, and we need to.
So, Jeff, I got to ask you, how do you feel now about helping some of these banks that can't pass the stress test?
Oh, I tell you, here, I am not giving up on this battle. We have got to win this battle. I want us to go back, and we're going to try again. Let's not give up, because we can't afford to give up on behalf of our families. But it does certainly put a little taint in the well, if you will.
Keep fighting them, Senator. Appreciate your time tonight on the Ed Show.
Thank you, Ed. Thanks so much.
Let's welcome back our panel, A B Stoddard, Jack Rice, and John Nichols. A.B., this doesn't make any sense. I would think President Obama would really weigh in on this hard pretty soon. What do you think?
Well, it's just part of a larger picture as we move into this second 100 days. There's going to be opposition from his own party, not just from the Republican Party, whether it's farm interests in the Dakotas, student loan interests in Nebraska. It's going to be a very, very tough slog in the months ahead on his big issues. And it's just not going to be, you're not going to get his 58, 59, or 60 and get these things out the door.
John Nichols,
he's picking his battles.
Yeah. John Nichols, has the president said enough about this? Or I know there's a lot on his plate, but moving forward, if we don't loosen up the credit markets, I don't know how the economy is going to go. And if we don't reel in the banks and where they're sticking it to consumers, what's going to change?
Look, my #1 concern is rising unemployment. And rising unemployment in combination with foreclosure is an absolute disaster for this president. Barack Obama will start to take a lot of the blame for the economic crisis if we go over a 10% unemployment rate. So he needs to start to weigh in much more fundamental and aggressive ways on the economy. And I will tell you this, Ed, on that question of whether the banks own the Senate, just remember, in September of last year, the auto industry and the banking industry were in crisis. The banks got hundreds of billions, now trillions. And the auto industry, well, they're still struggling to get a couple billion.
All right, let's turn to the auto industry. Jack Rice, was this a good deal today for Chrysler and Fiat? What do you think?
You know, I'm really hoping what it's really about here is about the American people. And it's also about those workers. Because if we saw the tanking of GM, see the tanking of Chrysler, and we simply say, you know what about the 3 million people who are tied to that? What about the pensioners? What about all of the people who own homes that would lose them? What about cities and towns that would collapse because of that? What I want to see is a focus upon that instead of a focus upon the corporate side of this. If that is a byproduct, great. I'm thrilled. But I want to see the American people benefit. What you're talking about right now is a perfect example where the American people just don't have the lobbyists that banks do.
A.B., what's the political fallout for the president on this bankruptcy, if any?
Well, he's trying to paint a good picture that it'll be quick and efficient and helpful. But the bottom line is, politically, I was so surprised to see the exasperation from President Obama last night with the bailing out of the auto industry. You never see him that emphatic. He said, wring in his hands, I don't want to meddle in the private sector. I don't want to run car companies. He really wants this. He wants this to work because he wants to move on. He wants Chrysler to merge with Fiat and succeed, and he wants this to be over with. But he clearly placed the blame with bondholders that were interested in looking for more bailouts, and he was mad.
All right, John Nichols, what's the play for the president on this? Responding to what AB said.
Well, the president should stop wringing his hands and be thrilled about the fact that the United States government can get in and help American workers keep their jobs. Remember, we don't want rising unemployment in this country. That's a disaster, not just politically, but for the country itself. And I'll tell you this, one thing I'm happy about is that the United Auto Workers are going to come out of this Chrysler restructuring with about 55% ownership. I'm glad the people who work on the lines actually have some control of the company. It will be better run.
All right, John Nichols, A B Stoddard, I want all of us to focus in on the background of Jack Rice tonight. I don't know who his studio producer is, but if that is a live shot of all those yachts, buddy, you're living right. Jack, good to have you with us. Thanks so much.
Great, Ed.
That's
Thanks
the
so
Ed
much.
Show. I'm Ed Shultz.